80 years ago today. It was 80 years ago that we had D-Day, 6/6/1944. Now, I'm not going to bore you with tons of facts. There's other videos here on YouTube about that. World War II documentaries, discussions, podcast about it. But I found out something really cool about the mail. Got to share this with you. And this was before the internet. So I'll just give my take here. Now, the average age of a soldier at the time was between 18 to 22, 23 years old. Commanders would have been older. Whoever was higher up in the chain would have been older. And Teddy Roosevelt Jr. was at Normandy. Now, I've seen this today. And I'm not going to say which podcast it was on. But they had mentioned that we were fighting for Christian values. Now, I grew up in a non-denominational Christian church, evangelical church. But I realized that that's not really what we were fighting for. Now, that may have been a part of it. But we were fighting ultimately to protect our shores. America's interest, our interest abroad. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fight the Third Reich. So it wasn't a moral crusade. It wasn't for quote-unquote Christian values. It was to protect our interest here and abroad because we had been attacked during Pearl Harbor. But something I found out about the mail that's really cool. Before the days of internet, because there were so many soldiers at the time, they were drafted, you had a lot of mail. So the mail was slow, and soldiers wouldn't receive letters until maybe 2 or 3 weeks later after they got sent out. So they came up with a system called V-mail. V for victory. Now, the really cool thing about this is that, just a little side here, that the letter V in Morse code is ... dash. The opening of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, ... dash. Did I say 3 dots? It's ... dash. Yeah, okay. So it's actually a triplet, and I think a half note or something in the if you go and you look at the actual score of Beethoven's Fifth is the opening bar. V for victory. So they called it V-mail. And what they would do is they would take photographs of these letters and they would put it on microfilm and they would send it overseas to the soldiers. And this reduced the amount of mail bulk, and made it more efficient. Now, the Hoover Institute has a really good section on this. These letters by these soldiers, go check it out. And there's this really cool story of an Italian-American, I think it was 19. Now, he wasn't at Normandy, but he had a girlfriend. And one of the things about the mail is, they would, send back salacious stuff to each other in these letters, lewd stuff. So they had censors that went through and made sure that these letters were legit. So what they would do then to get around this is they would speak in code that only the two parties involved would understand. But there's a really cool story about that. Italian-American, 19 years old, who missed being at home, good old home cooking. And his brother would write him and say, "I'm sorry you couldn't be here to eat the cake. I had to eat it all by myself." Stories like that. Isn't that great? But you also have to remember, this is a time that we had composers alive such as Sibelius and Shostakovich, Prokofiev, Khachaturian. Advances in technology and architecture, in rail travel, and in airplanes. The B-52 bomber. I got to share this. So there is a very famous church in France. I can't remember the name of it. But their pipe organ, I forget how many pipes it has. Its lowest register has the roar equivalent to a B-52 bomber. Isn't that amazing? Absolutely amazing. So this was an amazing time. Things were changing rapidly. And people got their information from the newspapers and the radio. That's kind of why one of the reasons why I do the channel the way I do is because it's part theater of the mind. I mean, sure, you could go and you watch all these videos here on YouTube, right? And they're going to have the fancy graphics. Well, we don't do that here. They're going to have epic soundtracks. We don't do that here. No pretty boy camera angles. Just like back in the day. I just got an alert on my phone here, so if the volume drops a little bit, I do apologize about that. But people got their information from the radio, and they would sit around in their living room listening and watching the radio, getting the news about World War II. I talked about this before. I have this box set of vinyl. It's old-time radio, hosted by Jack Benny. And I think Fred Allen, I think, is on there. But some of the clips that are on there involve the news around World War II. And they actually read a letter from a soldier. And when I heard that for the first time, it was one of the most surreal moments that I've ever had. I mean, I literally was looking at my phonograph and I couldn't look away. Because the description in this letter of what was going on, I mean, chilling, absolutely chilling. You're getting a snapshot of what was going on the ground at the time during World War II. So I thought I'd come here and talk about this in honor of the 80th anniversary, pardon me, 80th anniversary of D-Day. Now, I've got a little military history in my family. In fact, my grandfather, who passed away recently from Parkinson's, he designed the electronics for the USS Enterprise. Naval ship, not, Star Trek Enterprise. But he designed all the electronics for that ship. He got pretty high up there from what I heard. So, now, funny story about that, I got to share this, is somebody called his kids unruly and they punched the guy out and then he got demoted, but they didn't know what to do with him because he was so brilliant. He was just, he had all these honors, in the Navy. So, but, so if your relatives are still around who are from World War II, thank them. These people fought to protect this thing called the United States. But the purpose of us going to war was to protect our shores, to protect our interests here at home and abroad, because we had to. And how many people know, got to throw this in here, that we had 700 basically POW camps that housed over 400,000 German soldiers that were captured during the war. 700 of those camps in the United States. And then you had the Japanese, the Italians, and the Germans, Japanese Americans, Italian Americans, German Americans, that were all interned during World War II. So it was a very volatile time, politically, internationally, but it was also a very exciting time with all these composers and artists that were around. Some born in the latter part of the 19th century. And then you also had swing music. You had big band Glenn Miller. And the mystery behind Glenn Miller's plane going down or missing. So Glenn Miller, Count Basie. And then what happened post-World War II? The biggest boom that the world has ever seen in the United States of America. I mean, it went off like a rocket. All the great things that we accomplished post-World War II. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. Thank you for being with me. Just my take on this again. Another one-take type. You can follow me at Instagram, #JasonComposes, because I write music in my spare time. Or you can go to X, Culture Confederacy at Culture Confed1 on X. as I have said many times on this channel, this is why it's so important that we remember the past. We don't take down everything that we disagree with. Because I know there's some people out there that say, yeah, we shouldn't celebrate D-Day because, you had segregation in the armed forces. Well, as I just showed you, we had Japanese, Germans, and Italians in this country that were being interned. 400,000 German soldiers captured during the war. 700 POW camps here in the United States. I mean, human history is what it is. But that is why I am so hell-bent on making sure that we preserve great art, music, history, culture, while we talk about the past and have a good time doing it. Because history doesn't have to be dead. It doesn't have to be boring. It can be exciting. Some of the greatest music I've heard has been from 3 centuries ago. And some of it sounds almost modern. So, thank you for being with me. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you next time. God bless this thing called the United States. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out. And once again, please go out there and thank a veteran who served in World War II, or any veteran who served in any war for the United States, to protect this thing we call the United States. Take care, everybody. I'll catch you next time.